Burnout, anxiety, imposter syndrome, and tilt are four pillars that hurt and hold back gamers everywhere. They can prevent your improvement in games, suck the fun out of your play sessions, and ultimately leave you feeling less fulfilled. So let's go over the major symptoms of every single one of these and things that you could immediately do to help improve your situation, your mindset, and your overall experience. But share this with a buddy that is dealing with these issues, and let's jump into it. Now, the first problem is burnout, which is defined as a physical or mental collapse caused by overwork or stress. But when applied to gaming, burnout can suck the enjoyment and fun out of any game you're playing. If you've been grinding a game for a very long time with no improvement or goal in sight, you're already tilted at the very beginning of your play session because you're still pissed off from the previous one, and you get really anxious before you queue up for a gaming session. Now, if you don't address these problems, it can actually ruin your enjoyment of a game or gaming forever. So what do? The first thing you could do is find a positive mental duo or group. I can't tell you how some people's mentality is infectious in a great way. I feel like the people that are extremely happy, don't get burned out, and have that positive attitude have enough to spare for so many other people all around them, and you will naturally be a more positive person and have a more positive mental just by playing with this person or group of people. In addition to that, grinding will become a lot more enjoyable and you're less prone to get burnt out, tilted, or have any of these other issues. Now, this is a double-edged sword, though, that if you play with a duo or a group of people that are negative, feeling burnt out, anxiety, or some of these other symptoms themselves, y'all could all collectively snowball off each other and make everything worse. So pick your play group very carefully. The next solution is to focus on scrim play or different variations of what you normally play. Let's say you're a ranked grinder in any game. Instead of grinding ranked, why not try to play in coordinated settings, in pickup games, in scrims, in a completely separate environment that removes many of the frustrating factors that you might deal with when playing what you normally play, and at least it's something different. Now, the last solution is to take a break until you completely detox. You gotta understand that your skills are not gonna leave you. Your progress won't be unwritten. It's okay to step away, and many times players are holding on because they're afraid of not reaching that goal that they believe is so close in sight. That being said, when you've been wearing yourself out thin and pushing yourself way past that edge of burnout, you are not only holding back your true potential, but once you finally achieve what you've been grinding so desperately for, those burnout symptoms might not go away at all, and you are going to be left feeling unsatisfied at something that you've been trying to get for so damn long. Now, the next big problem is anxiety. And I want to make it clear that anxiety will never be fully solved. There's also other medical conditions and things that can affect anxiety, which we won't be referencing here. Consult your doctor, please. This is not medical advice. That being said, some of the symptoms of anxiety is nervousness or a difficulty to perform under pressure or feeling like you're always under pressure. Another one is second guessing yourself or being mad easily or being very inconsistent. Maybe you feel like when you're calm, you play way better, but most of the time you aren't playing how you could play or how you believe you could play. And the last one is an out-of-body experience where you feel like you just made mistakes and you did things wrong that logically you know weren't the correct play, but you couldn't actually act based on what you logically knew or logically thought and did things outside of what you know to be true. Now, the core solutions to these problems, number one, is building your ego. Gamers are often young, people that are still establishing their ego, growing in confidence, and trying to become better at various things. You gotta understand that in order to build a healthy ego, you need to generate confidence, and the only way to do that is through repetition. The first time you drive or the first time you do anything, you're gonna be very scared, anxious, and not really knowing if you can do it. But once you go through the motions, you're gonna become more and more confident. Now, the problem you run into with gaming is that there's always another challenge, always another wall, and no matter how confident you become, there will always be an obstacle that you won't be able to overcome very easily. That's why instead of just building only the confidence in your own skills, you need the confidence to take a loss on the chin, recover, and improve yourself so that you could be better suited to deal with problems in front of you. Just like in real life, I might not be confident that I have all the answers to every problem that will come my way, but I am confident that whatever comes my way, I can use my experience and my skills that I've earned and gained throughout my life to deal with these problems, face them head on, and not run away from them. So in a similar way, you're not crafting the confidence to be the best player in the world. You're not not crafting the confidence to never lose a gunfight. You're crafting the confidence to deal with these things and become better. In addition to that, in between moments, I want you to focus on your breathing. Clear your mind, deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth, and relax yourself. There are many moments in between what you're doing in a game that you can just take a breath and relax. At the end of the day, it's just a game and you can walk away if you need to. Last up is out-of-game factors. If you have really bad sleep, or maybe you're abusing caffeine, these types of things can directly affect your mental state and your anxiety. In addition to that, if you have outside of game factors, work problems, school problems, or anything in between, these things can actually have an effect on your in-game performance and your overall enjoyment without even understanding why, because you're pulling these feelings from outside of the game into it, so there's nothing directly in the game that is causing these problems. The number 3 is imposter syndrome, and this one is a big one. A lot of players feel this way, and honestly, it impacts things far outside of gaming as well. Symptoms of this is not being able to make up your own conclusions on things and only citing other people. While actually getting credible sources and citing people is good and correct, and doing your studies, it's also important to make up your own conclusions about things, and don't be afraid to say something that might be wrong. Another symptom is feeling like you don't deserve your rank or achievements. You won't queue at all, or you'll only smurf because you don't feel like you deserve it. A huge symptom is feeling like you used to be better than you are right now. Maybe it's because of old age or the fact you don't play it anymore, but you always reference your old self, your childhood self, your past self as being this god of gaming, while the version you are right now is just terrible. And the reality of this is, most of the time, you're just simply too hard on yourself now, and you weren't nearly as critical of your gameplay back then. Now, when I talked about coming up with your own conclusions, I need you to be willing to believe in your own logical reasoning. Study and learn, and base your things on things that you learn, but don't be afraid to believe something and then be proven wrong down the line. You also need to understand that what you deserve is subjective and doesn't really matter. What you have achieved and what you have earned, that's what matters. Be proud of what you achieved. If you achieved it, that means that that's yours. It doesn't mean that someone else can say that you deserve or don't deserve it, and you shouldn't be thinking about such things either. Now, I mentioned that you're rarely worse than you are, and that's true. Everyone's a harsher critic of themselves, and if you don't believe me, just ask everyone how good they were at Call of Duty, like Modern Warfare 2. Anyone will tell you that they were the GOAT, the greatest of all time for that game. But honestly, you probably weren't. Neither was I. Most of the time, you were being thrown against players that were far younger than you and didn't know any better, didn't learn the game, didn't play the game that much. So really, you're comparing yourself against much tougher competition in a gaming world that's much more competitive, with yourself as your harshest critic. Last up, don't compare yourself to others. Streamers, pros, or players that play this game for a living or non-stop understand that you are probably not in their situation. It's not realistic for you to directly compare yourself to these people, and just because you're trying to improve yourself and climb a ladder or become great at a game doesn't mean that you have to always compare yourself to directly someone else. A better mindset is to compare how far you've come from yourself from a month or 2 months ago, and understand how you could improve a month in advance based on your natural improvement cycle, not whoever streamer you like to watch and how they perform. Last up is tilt, and the symptoms of tilt are various. First off is the physical kind. You're breaking desks, breaking keyboards, and that one's pretty obvious. But there are some other symptoms that aren't quite as obvious. Passive aggressiveness, or feeling incredibly petty in your games. Lashing out at friends when you don't mean to, and this one's a really big one. Getting too caught up in the game and getting kind of blown over the top when really you didn't need to get tilted for any particular reason. And last up, it could be caused by any of the other factors above, including burnout, anxiety, or imposter syndrome. Now, what are the core solutions to this problem? Number one is to deal with many of these other issues first. I do think that tilt often stems from these other issues, so those ones are kind of the root of the problem. And while tilt might not be based on these things, I would definitely check up there first before you try to address tilt. Next up, you got to understand that if you're sore, hungry, tired, or in emotional distress, all these things can make you extra tilted. We all get a bit hangry from time to time, and you don't often realize how it affects your play and your performance. On top of that, some of us have a natural propensity to tilt, and I think it's important for you to be honest with yourself about how real that problem is for you, and some of the self-checks that you can do to yourself in between little outbursts to keep yourself calm and remind yourself that it's only a game and you need to keep yourself contained. I think the most important thing to deal with tilt, and the thing that I embraced in order to become much better at dealing with tilt myself, is not getting worked up about things I cannot control. You see it a lot on the internet these days where there's always something to get emotionally distressed about. There's always something to get mad about. And while there's a lot of things in the world that we can contribute to help change, we can't put our time, our energy, our mind into everything. We can't control many of these things that are on a far grander scale than us, and we can't control the actions and the thoughts of other people. And this is true just as much in your games as it is in the real world. Don't get overly worked up about things that are outside of your control and focus most about what is inside your control. If you don't embrace this mentality, you're going to end up being tilted far more than you're happy. And the last one, and this is the one that ties everything together, and it's so important: a strong body is a strong mind. The stronger you are physically, the better you are mentally, and the better you are in game. I know that it doesn't seem like it correlates that much because gamers are people that typically don't work out, stay inside, and are just on the computer. And I understand that it's fairly cliche to say, but your body is your temple. You need to understand that your body and your mind have a very symbiotic relationship with one another. The stronger your body is, the better and more equipped your mind will be to deal with any of these problems. At the end of the day, all of these things are only tools that you can use to help you, but what actually might be affecting you is different, but talking about it can definitely help. So definitely let us know in the comments down below if you need any advice or if you have any advice to give. Do me a solid here and send this to someone that you think needs to listen to this, and thank you for coming by. I'll see you next time.